Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show that's hosted by Unique Voices in Films and the Path of Consciousness. I'm your host, Weam Namou, and my special guest today is Mr. Nabil Roumayah. Hello, Nabil.
Hi, Wam. Thank you for the invite.
Well, yes, I'm very happy to have you here. I've interviewed you before, but you never stop working, so there's always going to be interviews. One of the things you're mostly known for is that you are the president of the Iraqi Democratic Union of America, a national organization with multi-branches throughout the U.S., and it was established in 1980. So it was established before I even came to the United States. The year.
Correct.
So I love talking about your work because it resonates with the stuff that I do. But I want to, take a few steps back to talk about how you got involved in this work. And then this would lead up to the book that you recently published last year. So what got you, how did you become did you form this organization, or what was the story behind it?
No, the organization was formed before me. When I came, I joined it in the beginning, around 1980. And of course, when I joined this organization, I had a background in the same idea that organization, the IDU, was carrying, which was like defending the Iraqi people for more freedom and democracy, working with the community to build bridges between the community here and back home for the motherland. So I was in Europe before that, and I did almost the same activities in there. I was very active.
What do you mean? You were in Europe? Was that because you were in Europe before you came here? Like you left Iraq? What was your story?
Yeah, I left Iraq when I was very young, in the 18, 19, age. And I went around a little around the world, Turkey, Syria, places like that. And then I ended up in England for a while. I finished my education there, my computer science education. And I involved with the student union and the work with the community, stuff like that. So when I came to America, I already had the background. I already was involved in this kind of work. So I look around, and the Iraqi Democratic Union was just barely start forming. It was formed 1980. I came like 1978, 79. And so I joined. And when I joined, I was active in the union and moved a little slowly until I became the president of it late in the, I think, 1995, 96.
So take us back to the time that you were in Iraq. What time period did you live under? What kind of regime was during that time?
I lived in the good time and the bad time.
So you got the best of both worlds.
The good time was that, around the 1958 revolution, things were getting better in Iraq, a little more freedom for everybody, especially women, minorities. We had an opening. The country was opening up for better social behavior, better social treatment. Science, our university were the greatest university in the Middle East. So it was a nice period between 58 and 63. 63, there was a coup, the Ba'ath coup, which really took us back 100 years in 9 months and destroyed the country. They stopped the progress of the country right away in 9 months. A country which had a 5,000 years old history and civilization, it was stopped in 9 months. So that will teach us a lot of lesson about the world. It doesn't matter how great is the country, you could stop it right there with the wrong leaders, with the wrong people. So that what happened in 63. Everything stopped. So I was there for a while. I left the country like in the late 1960s, 68, 69. And so I saw the good thing and I saw the bad thing. And we talked, you and I, a lot about those feelings and about things. It formed my personality. It made me what I am now. It made me somebody who loved democracy, who loved human rights, who like to defend the weak and the woman and minority and stuff like that. So when I moved to Europe, like I said, I did my education in there for a while. And I continued doing that, and then I came here, and I did my higher education in here, in America, and kept involved in those things, and it fit me, and I fit them, and they fit in the organization.
Well, and especially because the population, the Iraqi population, continued to grow, and I'm not sure if you know this, but in our this Sterling Heights district, which I believe is District 11, it has the largest population of Iraqi-born citizens in the U.S. So you're just within that region, you often do events that are geared towards the Iraqis, to try to preserve their history, to try to promote their arts and their culture. How have you seen the growth in that period from the time that you started, which there was a decent amount of people here, but nothing like there are today. How do you see that growth?
When we started the organization in 1980 with the Iraqi Democratic Union, you're right, there were not a lot of people. I mean, the people were here like, mostly worker, business people, stuff like that. It was a smaller community, everybody busy and making living. And so most people in that period were like, their heart was in Iraq. They were anti the government in Iraq. They wanted a better future for Iraq. So it was okay. Was working with those people, and everybody was like looking up for us because we were like against trying to change what's happening in Iraq to make it better for the people to live. And our organization mostly, of course, the community is mostly Chaldean, Christian, Assyrian, and that was our organization too, mostly the same the same colors of the community. So later on, new immigrants start coming in. There were two different Iraqis, if I may say. The old people left because of they wanted the better Iraq. They went out of the country, but they were fighting the regime to go back for a better country. Later on, the people who came like in the 90s and until now, they were discriminated against. I mean, the country left them. They were not Iraqi anymore. They were Chaldean. They were like Assyrian. They were like minority. And the situation in Iraq, instead of those minority are to be like a real citizen of Iraq, they fight for Iraq, they die for Iraq as a nation. They become a minority with the majority like looking down on them, like trying to, we're gonna take care of you, you're gonna this and that. We start becoming not
like separated somehow.
Separated, but it's worse than separation. The majority of the Iraq ruling parties and the government, they start looking at those minority, not only the Christian, the Mandaiyin, the Yazidis, all those minority as guests in Iraq, and they are being nice to them to keep them in that country. This country is ours. We made that country. Those minority, the Chaldean, the Syrian, the Mandai, those are the original people of Iraq. We made that country the way it is. And they think that we are guests in that country, and they treat us like, they're nice people. See, we're taking care of you. We're giving you a minister, or we're giving you a representative.
Like handouts, kind of.
Yeah, exactly, that's what it is. And now we face that in here too. those people who came late, they didn't want to deal with Iraq anymore. They didn't want to talk about Iraq. They said, "What? Why are you still fighting for that?" Because we didn't change. We kept trying to do a better Iraq for the Iraqi people. They said, "You crazy? What's there in Iraq for you to do? Keep doing this. Look what they're doing to us." Then came ISIS and then all the sectarian, secular stuff and sectarian stuff, and then so those people, they lost hope. They lost hope in the country. They lost hope in the future. And when you talk to them about Iraq, they don't want to talk about it. Their future is here, and that's a big issue. That's a very big problem.
It's probably quite painful because, I've been a journalist for many years as well, and I've interviewed a lot of these people, and they did what they experienced was horrendous. I know from our case, it was more like a political situation that we experienced. Later on, it became political and religious. So there was a layer. Each time there was another layer added to the discrimination that happened against minorities. What you're saying is very true, and I have found it's not studied or addressed enough. I'm wondering why that is. I know people in academia, they're of Iraqi background, of Chaldean background, but they were, whether they were born there or whether they're born here, they don't really see our story. I feel like we're not really seeing what you just said, that we are the natives. The Native Americans are given the type of attention they deserve, given that this is their land. Other minorities here get that attention. What is going on in the academia field or other areas where the people who have true, and this goes for not just us as minorities, there's many Muslims that feel the same way because they are aware of their roots and they're incredibly intellectual, understanding the roots of the Iraqis. It's the cradle of civilization, and they put everything aside with that love for that history. I wonder what is going on and how, whether it's the Democratic Union of America or others, can help bring attention and awareness into academia, into areas where we need to be heard.
We do that. We do. Our main organization is the Iraqi Democratic Union, but through that organization, we created or we formed several organizations which to do with it. We have a very active organization called the Mesopotamian Forum for Arts and Culture. And
Yes.
this is very, very powerful and very active organization. We have other organizations, small satellite organization. It's all aimed to keep the bridges between here and Iraq, keep the community here aware of what's happening in Iraq. At least the IDU is a kind of political organization, so we keep the politics in it. But other organizations, we talk about art, about culture, about poetry, about stories, and we invite a lot of those people we give them platform, let them, they express their art and stuff like that. We were created about 12 years ago, and we did almost over 80 activities in those 12 years. That's a lot. That's almost one activity every month, So we did that. The idea behind all that is to keep like you just said, to keep the roots, to keep the bridges, to keep the connection between us. We don't want this community to drift away from the Iraq, because that's the original. A few years back, there was a conference, a religious conference or something like that. Chaldean was run by some Chaldean organization. And people were talking about everybody should leave Iraq and things like that, and save the Christian of Iraq and all that. So I stood there and I said, I have two questions. I said, what's Iraq without Chaldean? And what's Chaldean without Iraq? Those two questions, you could write thousands of books about them. I mean, just think about it. What's Iraq without Chaldean? Iraq will lose a major color of its thing, major part of its history, is major part of their culture. And what's Chaldean without Iraq? One generation, two generation, and then what? We become Italian American, Polish American, Iraqi American. The church is keeping us going for a while. Some organizations are keeping us going for a while, but you cannot hold it. It's going to go. So when you take people out of their land, out of their place, you lose the language, you lose the culture, you lose the history, you lose the habits and the connection, and you cannot keep that group of people the same without the land. We stayed thousands of years in Iraq because we were in the land, and the land contained our villages, our homes, our ancestors, and that was passed from generation to generation in that land. When you take the land away, nothing left, and that's what's going to happen to us. What's Chaldean without Iraq?
Well, I just interviewed Dr. Amr Hanna Fatouhi a couple of days ago with regards to the Jews in Iraq, and his book Babylonians of the Jews of Babylon. And I got chills when you were talking about this, because this is the kind of same sense that it feels that there was Jews that was like 200,000, around 1960s, and they dwindled down to just a few. And they have that type of feeling where when I do interviews with them, they look at it as the land, but there's the disconnect in the heart because of the pain that has happened and the dwindling. And we wonder if that is going to happen. From your experience over the years, trying to work with the Iraqi government or whomever the leaders that are there, what has been the biggest challenge? What do you think has prevented, because I know there are others who I've talked to who have made similar attempts. What is the biggest challenge, or has been in the past?
Nationalism. It's people of the country. They are associated, affiliated, identified by the country. I'm American, I'm French, I'm Italian, I am, this and that, I'm Egyptian. In Iraq, we lost that. In Iraq, since 2000, or until, since the new change, 2003, we lost the nationalism feeling. We become sectarian. We become Shiites, Sunnat, Kurds, Christian, this and that. We took the country apart, and we divided it into small groups. Now in Iraq, when somebody asks you, they don't ask you. When they ask you who you are, you cannot just say in Iraq. They want to know more. Oh, are you Shiite? Are you Sunni? Are you Kurd? Are you this and that? And that destroyed the fabric, the social fabric of the country. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. We become guests in our country. Before, the Iraqi, the Christian used to die for the country. I mean, in their history, through the political parties, hundreds of Iraqi Christian, Mandain, Jewish, all that, they sacrifice themselves for the country, for Iraq, for the nation. Now they give us a quota to select, 2-3 people, put them in the parliament. They took away our identity. We become a small minority living in a bigger field, and those guys, those party, those group, those sectarian group, they doing us a favor to keep us there. We are not anymore the owner of the country. We are not anymore Iraqi. We are minority, Christian minority. We are Shiite. We are Sunni. We are Kurd. We are this and that. And that was the biggest destruction of that's a beautiful nation. You go back now there, the country is divided, the political system is divided. You cannot survive. You cannot survive as Iraqi. You have to survive within those small sections.
You have to narrow yourself to that definition.
We don't want to do that.
Yes.
We don't want to do that.
Nobody wants to do that. And what would you say then was the difference between what you guys are facing today versus when Saddam was in power and before that? I mean, what was the major difference? Was there any opportunities done that are not available now, or was it even worse before?
It's both worse. I mean, you see, that's a problem. A lot of people today, they compare the Saddam time or the King time or whatever time better than this time. Yes, but those times they had bad things in them too. The King time was bad, the Saddam time was bad, and those guys are bad. You cannot compare. You cannot say this is better than that. The challenge is almost the same, but it's a different aim. The challenge in Saddam time was one guy, get rid of the dictator, right? It was a dictatorship run by one person, one family. So the challenge was to get rid of that one guy. Now we have 200 dictators. Who are you going to fight? So the there's a problem of like,
so
identity. Before we were Iraqi fighting dictatorship. Now we are not Iraqi. We are Shia, Sunni, Kurd, Christian fighting, I don't know who. We try to change the country for better.
And this is why I think this work is what you're doing is so important, because I'm going to we have just 2 minutes left, and I'm just going to put this question out, and, we could discuss it. We're doing 2 segments today because I'd like to show more of the work that is being done here, because one of the things that I have found when I was very depressed over what was happening to Iraq over the years was whether it was the 2003 war, whether when ISIS attacked our villages, our ancestral villages, is taking what I can and my capabilities and my creativity and putting them into projects. That is part of my healing. Sometimes people say, how you're always doing this? Well, one of the secrets is that this is my contribution, because otherwise I would just feel so powerless. And I sense when I see you so active and really shining light on the community that you're doing this. But I'll leave just with one question. So do you think that maybe just the answer lies where we have to accept with the situation as it is and just kind of focus on our new land? Do we have an option?
We'll never give up.
We'll never give up.
No, that's not a solution. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, a land for the Christian in the north of Iraq. You cannot have a peaceful, democratic, nice, cozy land within a land full of hate and crime and division. You cannot do that. We are not, you're going to put I don't know how. It doesn't work. You have to change the whole thing. The whole thing has to change. The whole
from
Iraq
the
has
inside,
to change
yes, from the
to
inside.
become all good country, all nice. So the minority and us and everybody, all the Iraqi, become good. You cannot pick and choose. It has to be all changed, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. I mean, it's a
big challenge in itself.
But I always say when people ask me, like I said, in 9 months, a country 5,000 years was destroyed. The same thing in here. Nothing impossible. It could change. I mean, there's a lot of external factor. There's a lot of internal factor. Neighborhood factor. If those factor works together, or like eventually something happen, the country will change. People change country. So if we get the right people in the country, they might change it to a better. I mean, look around you in the world. Country changed by one guy, one person, one period, one party.
It creates a domino effect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this. This is really nice background to understand the kind of work that you do. But we are going to have another segment. And in this segment, we're going to focus on the work that's been being done in Michigan, which has the largest population of Arab Americans in the U.S. and the largest population of Chaldeans in the world. Thank you, Nabil, for joining us.
Thank you, Will.